Robert Harris knows a thing or two about fear, corruption, politics, and power. And fortunately, he can take all those elements to tell a great story. He started as a journalist back in the UK covering politics and got pretty close to some influential people, including a young up-and-coming politician, Tony Blair. And years later, when Blair ran for Prime Minister, he gave Robert privileged access to his campaign, giving him a glimpse into what drives people to pursue power.
You have put your trust in me, and I intend to repay that trust. I will not let you down.
But as much as he loved journalism, Robert found there were things you can't say in a newspaper, so he turned to the books and fiction. His first novel was called Fatherland, a provocative story about what life would have been like if the Nazis won the Second World War. It was a big success, that book, and to date, Robert's written 8 books, including The Ghost, which was made into a film by Roman Polanski.
It's because I know nothing about politics that I'll ask the questions that get right to the heart of who Adam Lang is. And that is what sells autobiographies.
Knowing what we know about Roman's past, how do you reconcile working with him? We'll ask Robert about that. And also about his new novel. It's called The Fear Index, about a physicist who devises a way to measure and predict human emotion and uses it to manipulate the markets. It's pretty frightening because that impulse to do that, not that far-fetched, and not because it's futuristic, but because it ain't.
They're quite shifty, the physicists. I mean, they've been trained to use their brains for science, and they're putting them totally at the service of making money.
Please welcome to the program, Robert Harris. Nice to see you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Nice to see you. Thank you.
I love the fact that you write this book, you're dealing with the financial business, and you open with a Frankenstein quote.
Oh, yes.
That's how scary this really is, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I wanted to write the most frightening book I could about the world financial markets. It wasn't too hard, I can tell you.
When did the idea come? Just after the big collapse, or was it building in your head before that?
Building in my head before that, I'm a great fan of George Orwell, and I wanted to write a kind of modern version in 1984, but it struck me that it wasn't the state that people are frightened of anymore, it's corporations using new technology. And then when the Lehman Brothers, the collapse happened, I realized that actually the financial markets are dominated by computers, and they are actually quite out of control, so that became the starting point of the book.
Well, you had access to some of the people that we only hear about in titles.
Yes.
We hear about hedge fund managers. We don't know these people. We just hear their names. But is there a common thread in their personality? Could you see the core of what makes the person really want to do this for a living?
Well, there's 2 types. There's the traders, which are the traditional, kind of guys you see in the Oliver Stone movie. But then increasingly there are these people called quants, short for quantitative analysts, and they are
sounds like a pejorative.
They are physicists, mathematicians, scientists generally, and they are really in it for the theories, and they are increasingly driving the markets.
It's an entire business based on speculation and fear.
It's a grand casino, and there's huge money made. I mean, there was one guy in Geneva where they pay 8.8% tax, incidentally, which makes Mitt Romney look like an incredibly generous donator to the government. And he sat down opposite me, and at a restaurant in Geneva, and I said, how are things going? And he said, oh, pretty well. I made $700 million on Thursday. And I bought the meal, which is the thing. Which is most annoying. But the amount of money that's made is phenomenal.
Well, and because there is that ability to make money, there will be all kinds of people looking to tilt the system in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, the system's got out of control. My novel is set on the 6th of May, 2010, which was the day of the so-called flash crash. And on that one day, in New York, 19.1 billion shares were traded. That is more traded on that one day than in the whole decade of the 1960s. 75% of shares are traded by computers, which is what's in my novel, and the average length of time a share is held in America is now 22 seconds. So, you've got to get rid of the old, model in your head of what the financial markets are like. They're super fast, they're trillions of dollars, they're controlled by scientists, or not controlled by, they run and operated by quants, and the system is out of control, I think. You politicians don't know what to do.
It's about who has power here in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is not an uncommon theme for you. You like exploring power.
Yeah, power about ancient Rome, or about Nazi Germany and fatherland, or the ghostwriter about ex-prime minister. But really, if you want to know power, the bond market, the financial markets, and people whose names we don't know, who are making billions of dollars.
Who interests you more, the powerful or the powerless?
I see myself as writing about people who are in pursuit of power, and I try to write about them from the perspective of the powerless. I mean, mostly in my novels, the central characters are struggling, or they're on the periphery. You know, like, say, the ghostwriter figure with an ex-prime minister who's trying to figure out what's going on. That role interests me.
That's the Ewan McGregor movie, if you've seen that, right?
Yes.
Polanski. You wrote the screenplay with Polanski?
I did, yes.
In the same room or via email?
Half and half. I mean, he's in Paris, and you know, I used to go over there and work with him.
I mean, knowing Polanski's story, knowing you're in that room, what is it like? Because it's different than collaborating with just another writer.
Yeah, well, he's brilliant, actually. Whatever people may think of him, and I liked him a lot, he is just astonishing. And he lived under... He was shot at by German soldiers when he was trying to avoid the Holocaust, in which his mother died in Auschwitz, so that's part of his life. He was then under communism when the communists took over. So, you know, it's like a slice of history in front of you.
Well, and notoriety as well. I mean, because he's obviously,
Yeah.
you know, committed a heinous crime. And
yeah, that is true, and, you know, it's pretty tough when the director of the movies, it's just been finished, is in jail. You know, he had to... The film was cut, part of it, in a room next door to the prison canteen.
That is a very surreal experience for you, isn't it?
Yes, it was. I mean, you know, 4 o'clock, not lockdown for the director.
How bizarre. How bizarre. You were close to certain political parties and political leaders over the years. Do you feel disconnected from them now?
Completely.
Well, Tony Blair and you had a relationship, right?
Well, wouldn't put it quite like that.
Shall I say that again, only slower? No, you were with Tony in that rise.
Yes, I was. And, you know, I thought... The joke is, I thought he was a completely normal guy. I mean, whoever would have thought that the leader of the Labour Party would have turned out to be, you know, so close to a president like George W. Bush.
There was a time when you considered politics for yourself, right?
Yeah, well, for about 15 minutes.
But from what I understand, what you were uncomfortable with was the compromise. And what I wondered was, were you euphemizing the fact that these guys just need to be great liars? To be a great politician, you just have to say things and not do them and know you're not going to do them.
Well, to a degree, the arts of politics are almost by necessity hypocritical. But to be perfectly honest with you, I have some sympathy with that. You know, it's tough to operate as a leader with the cameras constantly on you. Any of us would always be tripped up by, well, you didn't say that 3 weeks ago, you know, kind of thing. So I have some sympathy for that. But the problem with a lot of them is that they seem to have no idea, no clue, really, as to what to do. And the similarities between them, there's very little difference between the parties. And in the case of the Labour government, I just think that they made, you know, big, fundamental mistakes.
You're going back, you're writing a trilogy on Rome,
yeah.
Right? What would be more barbaric times, the modern stock market or those days in Rome near the end of the
the modern stock market, without any question. I cannot tell you what a relief it is to get back to an era when they stabbed you in the front. It's fantastic.
It's a hell of a way to get inside the world. It's called the Fear Index. Thanks for coming on. It's great to see you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Robert Harris, everybody. Be right back.